Welcome to the Supervisor Training for the MYP Personal Project at Richard Montgomery. The Personal Project has undergone some significant revisions this year as a consequence of changes to the structure and focus of the project coming from the IB. I'm really excited about the potential for these changes to make a more authentic and realistic learning experience for our students, and I hope you'll find this helpful. In order to streamline the information provided to all staff, experienced supervisors may choose to skip ahead in the video using the timestamps in the video description below. The first portion of the training focuses on defining what the project is and the role of the supervisor. The second section provides updates for this year. For those of you who are new to RM this year, my name is Molly Clarkson, and I'm the school's MYP coordinator. Ordinarily, you would find me in room 200, the IB office, or in the hallway outside encouraging students to get to class on time. But at the moment, I'm on maternity leave, so I created this in advance to keep you informed. In my absence, Joe Jellin is your primary contact for any questions that you have about the project. This training will cover some key information about the process students follow in the project and your role in that process. Before we get started, I want to first encourage you to keep this in perspective. The personal project is just one element of the middle years program. And while it's an important capstone experience for our 10th grade students, it's not the only part of the program that matters. Keeping that in mind will help all of this seem less overwhelming. These are our outcomes for today. We'll begin by describing the personal project and its purpose and defining the role of the supervisor in guiding student inquiry. Then we'll discuss the role of the process journal in evidencing students' approaches to learning skills throughout the process and explore structures that support student success in the revised personal project. Finally, we'll identify sources of information on the project and the platforms that we will use to facilitate the process. First off, please make sure that you've accepted the invite to the Canvas classroom in the role of teacher's assistant so that you can access students' instructional materials. In putting the project in perspective, it's helpful to think about how it promotes the key goals of the middle years program education. These three elements, motivation, agency, and lifelong learning, are qualities that the program seeks to cultivate in students from the age of 11 to 16. And as this project comes at the end of that range, it provides an opportunity for students to pursue these qualities. How does the personal project provide students with this opportunity? First, let's take a look at what a personal project is and why we support students through this project process. So why do we do these projects at all? On the one hand, yes, it's an IB requirement. The middle years program is offered for all 9th and 10th graders. It's inclusive and engages all students, not just those who will move on to the diploma program. More importantly, though, the project allows students the opportunity to engage in extended inquiry about a topic of their own choosing and interest. It gives them a chance to explore a topic that may not be a part of their academic coursework. It also encourages them to use and apply the approaches to learning skills that they developed over the course of the program. These learning how to learn skills are critical as students move towards greater independence in their academic careers. The project simulates, in a low-risk environment, the processes of independent learning that the students will use in the upper grades and beyond. This comparison helps to clarify what the personal project is and isn't. First and foremost, it's a chance for students to explore and develop their knowledge, skills, and interests, and an opportunity for us as supervisors to build a relationship with students who we may or may not see in a classroom. It should take students about 25 hours to complete, including the process of reflection and reporting. Many students will choose to spend more time on their project, particularly when they're working to achieve a goal that they're invested in. But that time frame gives you an idea of the rough scope of the project. Project is not, however, the only part of the MYP that matters in terms of the school's implementation of the program. The curricular and assessment elements are important too, and these support students' success in the project as well. Because it's a part of the MYP that's externally assessed, this is easy to forget. Fundamentally, a personal project is an opportunity for students to gain new knowledge, understanding, and skills as they investigate a topic of their own interest. They will plan, research, and develop their project over the course of the next few months and discuss it at specific points along the way with you as their supervisor. Ultimately, students will create a final product or arrive at a final outcome that shows what they've learned, created, or achieved. At the end of the process, they compile all of their work into a reflection that tells the story of their project, and then we celebrate their accomplishments at the school exhibition. This year, I have high hopes that the exhibition will be a great celebration of the hard work that students put into these projects after a 2-year break of seeing them in action. In the 2018-2019 school year, I did a personal project alongside students. If you're interested in hearing a bit more about what I learned, you can click on this video in the training slides and learn about what I did and how I struggled with some of the same challenges that face many of our students. Within the school year, the ongoing work students do in the project forms a cycle of independent and guided inquiry. They start by thinking about what they've done and what they want to do. This is an essential part of the project. They do need to choose something they like and are interested in. Then they take action on their ideas and periodically consult with you as their supervisor to help guide them through the process and provide feedback on their progress. Once they've consulted with you, they'll reflect on what they've done and achieved so far and decide what to do next. Every 3 weeks or so, they'll repeat this cycle. So how do we, as supervisors, support this process? Our primary job is to help students navigate the process with advice, encouragement, and reinforcement of the instructional materials related to the project. This timeline gives you a rough idea of what the year-long cycle will look like. Where most students struggle is during the month of December and January. At this point, while they may have chosen a topic they were interested in, they may also have lost interest or gotten stuck at some point in trying to meet their goal, or more likely, gotten involved with other priorities, whether personal, extracurricular, or academic, and lost focus on the project. At this point, it's important to reconnect with students and really encourage them to re-engage with the project. Sometimes a little push is all it takes. Your role as the supervisor is not necessarily to be an expert in the student's topic. You're there to guide and redirect the process. You can help them by being a supportive and encouraging voice, helping them get unstuck when things don't go as planned, and asking questions that will help them get refocused on the process. Remind and encourage them to consistently document their process and engage with the materials on Canvas, and follow up if you don't see or hear from kids. You can use the Canvas inbox feature to send messages to the students who will be assigned to your section within the broader Canvas classroom, or to individual students. Just be careful not to send them to the whole class. Supervisor meetings are held monthly, all in the same day for the whole grade. You can expect logistical information to come from Joe regarding the timing and structure of these meetings. Before the meeting, review the pre-meeting guidance that you'll receive from the IB office and the work that students have submitted through Canvas. Communicate with students via the campus inbox if you won't be able to meet with them and when you can do so. Let the IB office know if you'll be out of school as well. During the meeting, you can use the questions in the pre-meeting guidance to help structure your conversations. Students have these questions as well. And after the meeting, you should assess students' progress and submit the attendance and progress form. Follow up with kids if you don't see or hear from them. Additional logistical information will be shared via email before meetings regarding the bell schedule, student passes, etc. At this point, we're going to move into the portion of the presentation that applies to all supervisors. If your brain's feeling a little bit full, go ahead and take a break now and come back and learn more about the changes in the personal project. If you're an experienced supervisor and are just rejoining us now, welcome back. At this point, we're going to discuss some of the changes that have been made to the personal project that are coming from IB and how we as a school are adapting to those changes. The really good news is that IB has listened to feedback from schools like ours and made changes to the structure of the project, and most significantly, the assessment criteria and report to make the project more clear and feasible, while at the same time ensuring its validity as an internationally administered external assessment, which is undertaken by over 75,000 students worldwide. The goal of the revisions was to restore a balance between the value of the project as a learning experience and its structure as an assessment. As part of the review, some things have changed and others haven't. The aims, objectives, and assessment rubrics are all new, and the submission requirements have changed too. In place of a usually long written report, students will submit a shorter piece of writing and a selection of their artifacts of their process that demonstrate the skills they've applied in pursuing their learning goal and creating a product or outcome. The existence of the process journal as a blanket concept hasn't changed. Its role in the process has changed to become increasingly important as students work to evidence skills throughout the process. As a consequence, we've shifted away from a structure that has students working in two places, a handbook and a process journal, and combined those into one record of students' progress. As always, the project is well aligned with the independent inquiry of the other two IB programs, the exhibition and PYP, and CAS in the extended essay and the diploma program. In order to encourage students to use some of the digital systems that we've developed over the last year and a half to their advantage in this process, we've asked each one to create a Google Drive folder where they will share all of their materials and a process journal document that will be used to link together all the work they've done. These linked templates serve as an organizational tool to help students both see the required parts of the project and organize the work that they've done in one place. Within the process journal, there are three elements: process records, structured and unstructured journal entries, and reflection questions. If you'd like, now may be a good time to click on the link in the training slides and explore this on your own, or just follow along with the brief explanation here. This template is organized like a binder or tabbed notebook, which creates a space for students to link together their project elements. The blank sections are here for them to record records of their process work, while the tabs for the structured and unstructured entries have explicit instructions on what these are and what to include. The structured and unstructured journals are there to help demonstrate skills at specific points in the process. These are similar to the old checkpoint and reflection model we used in previous years. The reflection questions are the same ones that you'll receive in your pre-meeting guidance as supervisors and that students have on their passes when they come to meet you. These process journal elements are all an important part of students' ability to show their progress on the project objectives. The objectives describe what the student should know and be able to do in a process of completing personal projects. So we'll look briefly at them now. The 3 objectives for the project are for students to plan, apply skills, and reflect on the learning process. As they plan, they need to both have a goal for what they want to learn and a product or outcome that demonstrates that learning. The objective says product, but this is really broadly defined. A product may be a tangible artifact, like a sculpture, a film, a story, or a model, but it may also be a non-tangible result or a result that has various aspects to it. For example, an awareness-raising campaign or event or achievement that they might have of which they might have tangible evidence. Regardless, they need to present a clear and detailed plan of how they will demonstrate their success on a set of criteria that they set for themselves, which is why the process journal is so important. The second objective is for students to apply skills to the process of learning and creating their product or achieving their desired outcome. This is a big change. Previously, students were expected to demonstrate and reflect on all 5 areas of the approaches to learning at specific points in the process. This was an unnatural fit for how kids were actually using their skills and created a situation that encouraged them to make things up in their report in order to fulfill the requirement. Rather than spreading out all of the skill categories and asking kids to show them at various points in the process, we're now asking them to show what they used and how they used them in terms of their learning and product and outcome. How they choose to do so will vary, but the structured journal entries are designed to help them demonstrate skills related to the learning goal. And the unstructured ones are a chance for them to choose activities from a bank of resources that will help them make progress towards achieving their final product. Finally, students will reflect on their learning process, its impact on them, and evaluate their success based on the criteria they set for themselves. The success criteria are a more important part of the process now than they used to be. Students will be guided towards using their research to establish clearly defined and accessible criteria through the lessons on this topic in November and early December. The big shift in the project towards an evidence-based assessment of students' application of skills allows us to continue making a change that we started to make 3 years ago when it became clear that this was the direction the project would go. Rather than focusing on students' ability to write about their use of skills, the model of showing evidence of those skills in action allows them to demonstrate those skills as a natural part of the learning process, rather than an add-on after the fact. The team that wrote the new guide felt strongly that the power of the project to both teach these skills and provide an opportunity for growth was one of its most valuable elements. So it's a big part of what the students present in their final report. Take a moment now to review pages 24 in the chart called Table 9 on pages 28 and 29 of the revised guide, which are linked in the training slides. As you do, think about how this current concept of evidence of skills application lines up with how students will be using the process journal. Consider how we can transfer the practices that we've put in place to this model. Welcome back. For those of you who have gone through National Board Certification process, this structure of providing evidence of accomplishments and reflecting on them to show their impact will look familiar. This is asking kids to do something similar. It's also a familiar skill that might be in place in classrooms already, reflecting on a portfolio of assembled work to show growth and change. In light of these changes, students will replace the old structured reflections, which were designed to support the production of the report, with unstructured journal entries that will both help them make progress towards their goal and demonstrate the necessary skills while they do so. We've shifted away from a paper handbook and towards integrated Canvas modules that keep students' assignments and instructional resources in one place, while their work will be streamlined through the process journal. And we've retained the Google form for attendance and progress tracking purposes. As we did last year, we are using Canvas as a single platform and no longer using ManageBack for the personal project. At the end of the process, students will submit a shorter oral, written, or multimedia report, along with evidence of the skills that they've developed along the way. With the new criteria, new reporting structure, supervisors can plan to receive additional training and information in advance of the scoring of projects in March. For the past 2 years, due to the circumstances of the pandemic, these projects have been scored centrally as an exception to normal practice. We'll need to standardize our understanding of the criteria in order to ensure that these are applied similarly for all students prior to submitting our assessment samples to IB for moderation. This training has covered a lot of information, so it's helpful at this point to review the resources and information you can use to stay on top of the process throughout the year. The students' Canvas classroom will be the primary platform for distributing information and instruction throughout the year. You should join the classroom as a TA and will be matched up with your selected students at a later date. The guide for students and supervisors is provided as a reference point for explaining the project process. It includes much of the information that was in the old project handbook. The project website also contains all of the instructional materials for both students and staff. This is set up to be easily accessible for both parents and staff, although students will likely be using the Canvas page to navigate their materials. The staff resources page of the website contains all of the information in this training, as well as the pre-meeting guidance for each meeting of the year. The staff resources page is hidden from the site navigation, so you'll need to access it from the direct link in this presentation on the title slide. I'd recommend that you bookmark it just in case. As you'll see, the training presentation is here, along with links to documents and resources, as well as the meeting attendance form that you'll fill out for each meeting with students, and the pre-meeting guidance, which will continue to be built out here. Thank you so much for all of the hard work that you put into guiding students through this process. My contact information is here. However, in my absence, please contact Joe Jellin with any questions that you have about the personal project process. Thank you again, Richard Montgomery, and have a great year working on your personal projects.